I watched Yaron Brook last night. He was answering questions in Japan about objectivism, the philosophy of Ayn Rand, the virtue of selfishness. And I'm very much drawn to some of these things, but at the same time, I feel that he's got some of it wrong. So, for instance, he said that if we had complete freedom, there would be a lot more technological advances. He said that yes, uh, we're innovating in some ways, but look, we're still driving cars. We still have uh, basically the same technology for airplanes that we've had for a really long time. We haven't had any major technological breakthrough, and uh, if you read science fiction from the 1950s, by now we should have been colonizing Mars and beyond. And why aren't we doing that? Well, it's because the government is limiting us, and we can innovate, but only in a very small field. And that's why, presumably, we're going from VCRs to DVDs to Blu-ray. We're constantly changing uh, tiny, tiny things about the technology, but we haven't had any major breakthroughs. So, do you think that if we had more freedom from government, that we would all be on Mars by now? I I actually don't think that's the way it goes. I think if we do end up on Mars, it's because we will have used up the Earth. And I mean, I don't think anybody really wants to go live on Mars or beyond that. Uh, but any more than anybody wanted to leave Europe to come to America uh, at the time, except that Europe was all filled up. There was no freedom left there. And the reason people came to the New World was because there were natural resources, because there was no government telling them what to do here. Uh, it was to get away from all of the development in Europe that they came to the New World. So, as long as everything stays as long as it's possible for cattlemen to run cattle, as long as the ranchers don't feel that they have nowhere to graze, they're not going to Mars. Not because they don't have the technology, but because they just don't want to go there. They want to be free to live their own lives in their own way. And a lot of the time, that's very traditional life. Uh, So, in a way, it's the overpopulation of this area of the world that is taking away the freedom to do whatever it is that you want to do. And if we do make it out to Mars, it will be because everything got terribly used up and because there was no more freedom to ranch or to start new businesses or to uh, work with chimpanzees. And so people will have to go into outer space to get away from the government. Uh, but I don't think that if we had all been left to our own devices and if we had the freedom to do whatever we wanted to do, that necessarily going to Mars would be something that people would want to do. So, in a way, it's bad stuff that spurs the the incentive to explore new worlds.